It is 1966, the height of the Cold War. High above the Caspian Sea, an American spy satellite takes a photo that confuses the entire Central Intelligence Agency. They are looking at a secret Soviet naval base, and sitting in the water is something impossible. It is massive. It is over 100 meters long. It has the wings of an aircraft but the hull of a ship. It is bigger than a Boeing 747, bigger than the Spruce Goose, and it is sitting right there in the middle of a war zone. The CIA analysts are panicking in Washington, give it a code name, the Caspian Sea Monster. Was it a new kind of bomber, a high-speed troop transport, or a weapon capable of destroying American aircraft carriers before they even appeared on radar? For 15 years, the West feared this machine. They thought it was the future of warfare, but the truth was much stranger. This machine wasn't designed to fly high. It wasn't designed to float. It was designed to exploit a loophole in physics that most pilots are terrified of. Today, the monster sits rotting on a beach in Dagestan, a rusting skeleton of a superpower that collapsed. But to understand why it failed, we have to understand the genius who put it all together. To build a monster, you need a madman. Meet Rostislav Alexeyev. In the 1950s, he was the superstar of Soviet design. He didn't want to build ships that pushed through the water. He wanted to build ships that escaped it. Alexeyev was obsessed with a phenomenon that most pilots try to avoid: ground effect. Imagine dropping a piece of plywood onto the floor. Just before it hits, it slides across the air cushion. It feels slippery. That is ground effect. When a wing flies very close to the surface, less than half its wingspan, air gets trapped underneath. It gets compressed. This creates a high-pressure pillow that lifts the plane up. This was the loophole. A normal plane burns massive amounts of fuel to stay high, but an Ekranoplan? It rides this cushion of air for free. It can carry twice the weight of a B-52 bomber, but fly at 500 kilometers per hour, right under enemy radar. But there was a catch. To ride this wave, you have to stay low, dangerously low. If you fly too high, you lose the cushion and crash. If you touch the water at that speed, you disintegrate. Alexeyev convinced the Soviet military this was the ultimate weapon. They gave him a blank check. He built a secret team, hired the best engineers, and constructed the biggest flying machine the world had ever seen, the KM. In 1966, the KM was finally ready to come out of the hangar, and the numbers were staggering. It was 92 meters long. It weighed 540 tons. At the time, it was the heaviest aircraft ever built by human hands. To lift this mountain of steel, Alexeyev didn't just use engines. He used an explosion of power. He mounted 10 Dobrynin turbojets, the kind used on strategic bombers. 8 of them were strapped right to the nose, aimed specifically to blast air under the wings. When the pilots fired them up, it was so loud it reportedly shattered windows in the nearby town. The spray was so intense it created its own weather system. But then, the impossible happened. It worked. The monster lifted out of the water and stabilized at 4 meters. It hit 500 kilometers per hour. For 15 years, the Soviets tested it in secret. They called it the Caspian Sea Monster. The pilots who flew it said it felt like riding a magic carpet, smooth, fast, and unstoppable. But there was a problem with the design. Because it flew so low, it couldn't turn quickly. It took miles to change direction, and the pilots were exhausted. They were flying a ship at the speed of a jet, manually fighting the controls for hours. The monster was powerful, but it was unforgiving, and in 1980, the luck finally came to an end. 1980, a foggy morning on the Caspian. The monster, the KM, was out for another test run. But this time, the usual test pilot wasn't at the controls. The new pilot made a fatal mistake. During takeoff, he pulled the nose up too sharply. For a normal plane, this is fine. For an Ekranoplan, it is a death sentence. The massive machine rose out of ground effect. It lost its cushion of air. Gravity instantly took over. 500 tons of steel stalled in the sky and slammed back down tail first. The fuselage snapped. The monster was broken. Remarkably, the crew survived, but the machine was ruined. It was too heavy to tow. For a week, it floated there, half sunk, like a dying whale. Eventually, it slipped beneath the waves. The original Caspian Sea Monster sits at the bottom of the sea to this day. But it had a brother, and that one is still here. The KM was gone, but before it died, the Soviets built one final successor. They called it the Lun-class, and this wasn't just a test machine, it was a killer. Look closely at the top of the fuselage. Those aren't engines, those are 6 massive missile tubes. Each one carried a P-270 Mosquet anti-ship missile, capable of delivering a nuclear warhead. The plan was terrifying. The Lun would skim the water at 300 miles per hour under the radar, pop up next to an American aircraft carrier, fire all 6 nukes, and escape before anyone knew it was there. But it never fired a shot. In 1991, the Soviet Union collapsed. The funding disappeared. The Lun was dragged out of the water and left on a beach in Derbent, Dagestan. For over 30 years it has been sat there, a tourist attraction for the curious, a rusting tombstone for a technology that was too ambitious for its own good. The Caspian Sea Monster wasn't a failure of engineering. It was a victim of history. Physics says it works, but economics says, stick to the sky. Subscribe to Aviation Activities for more impossible machines.